Hello and welcome to another Bazaar guide. Today we will be talking about pivoting, and I know that right now I have a lot of Vanessa items on the screen, but this is more of a general guide that will hopefully be useful for you regardless of which character you're playing. So for starters, let's discuss what is a pivot. And this is something that in this case we've kind of borrowed from business lingo, but it means when you are transitioning from being one thing to being another very rapidly. And in terms of the bazaar, it especially means when you're going from one board to another board. Oftentimes, it might be when you're trying to transition from your early game board into your desired late game board, but it could also mean that you are going from one board that felt like it started falling off, or you just found something better and you're trying to turn into that better board. But regardless, pivoting is about going from one thing to another. And it's something that I've gotten comments on a lot of people feeling can be a rather tough thing to pull off in practice. It's definitely something where it matters a lot how you do it and if you get where you wanted to be, because if you lose all of that momentum, there's a very real risk that it could mean the end of your run. So, to make it easier and kind of break it all down, I've divided a pivot into three kind of core concepts. So, I hope you'll bear with me as I walk you through them. The first of these concepts is hedge, or hedging, as we usually say, which is once again something that we've kind of borrowed from business lingo, but it's a form of risk management strategy where the goal is to, in business, you divest your investments in a way that mitigates risk, but in the bazaar, it more or less means that you are preparing to potentially end up in multiple different boards simultaneously. It means that you're picking up a few key pieces here and a few key pieces there, so that if you find the direction that you're looking for, you'll be able to rapidly pivot into the desired board. So on Vanessa, for example, a lot of the time this could be picking up the skill Heated Shells, which lets you transition into most noteworthily Powdered Keg in the late game, which is one of our strongest late game strategies. But you might pick that skill long before you actually have the keg in order to hedge the possibility that you find a keg later. Similarly, on Dually, it can be picking up the metronome. In this case, the text on the screen is in regards to drill, but of course, metronome is a great example of a hedge item because it can hedge you towards multiple possibilities simultaneously. It's also an item that works with the yellow bug, it works with ballista, and it also works with thermal lance, to name a few. So by picking up this key hedge piece, you've opened up the possibility to go into multiple different later boards. And of course, which ones you want to go for, it always depends on the relative strength and the state of the meta and just what you find in general. But the point is, you've given yourself more possibilities. Pygmalion, it's similar. You can pick up Ledger to hedge a future fixer-upper. And of course, right now at least, Ledger is also a very powerful economy item, so you're quite likely to pick it up just in general. And the fixer-upper doesn't have to be a specifically fixer-upper, it can be any of his value scaling properties. But the point is, by picking up Ledger and maybe upgrading Ledger, sometimes you can even consider enchanting Ledger, you've hedged in a powerful way to give you a much easier pivot into a value scaling late game strategy. On Mac, it's similar with Incense, for example. Even if you don't yet have the Femur or the Smelling Salts or whatever future slow payoffs they might add to the character, just by picking up that Incense in the early game, maybe pairing it with a Moth Meal, all the things that I talked about in my Mac early game video and the overview, it makes it possible that you can hedge towards when you find the femur direction you were looking for, you'll be able to rapidly pivot out of whatever early game stuff you were playing into the femur board. The second concept is finding direction. And this refers to more finding the centerpiece of your puzzle, the thing that tells you where you're going. So if we've hedged by picking up the heated shells, if we find the keg, we've now found a direction where we want to pivot, which is why we'd say, okay, we are pivoting to a keg board. We might not do this immediately. There might be more pieces that we need to find, but once we've found a direction, we're likely to start focusing more and more of our resources to traveling towards that direction, going towards a drill board on Dooley, going towards a fixer-upper board on Pig, going towards a femur board on Mac. And that brings us to the final step, which is committing to the direction. And this is when you focus all of your resources at moving towards the direction that you're trying to go. It might mean that you change which shops you prioritize. Before I found the femur, maybe I'd still go to some medium shops looking for possibly a calcinator, or I'd be going to large shops looking for a poppy field, or what have you. But when I find the femur, maybe I start prioritizing non-weapon shops or regen shops that have higher odds of giving me upgrades for the incense. The specifics don't really matter. The point is that when you're at the stage where you say you commit, you need to start focusing your resources at moving you in the direction of your desired final board. And so this final board is your goal. This is kind of a visualization task almost, where the thing that matters the most is looking at the direction you've chosen to commit to and trying to understand which things are most important for me to get in order to reach the final board. Maybe you start prioritizing experience very heavily if you know that you're going to need the level 10 enchant or level 13 or 16 upgrades in order to get your board to come together. Or maybe you start prioritizing going to every skill vendor that you can find in order to find specific skills that you know that you need. But the point is that you have to imagine the end destination to also be able to see the easiest path leading towards it. And the main important thing that I want to highlight, and this is kind of the core reason why hedging is so important in the Bazaar, is because there is a lot of variance. You are very unlikely to be able to reliably attain your ideal board, like the thing you want the most. But a lot of the time, taking the second best or even the third best or fourth best thing that your character can do and doing it really well, having, kind of an ideal elemental depth charge board on Vanessa might not be as strong as the picture perfect keg board, but it's still strong enough. And the important point is that if you're trying to play elemental depth charge with a bunch of burn skills, you're going to do a lot better than the keg board that was missing heated ammunition. And so the second best board done really well will frequently outperform the best board if it has been done poorly. And we usually call it, kind of playing what the Bazaar gives us, or something to that effect. But this is why we hedge. We want to have multiple bets that could pay off. We find direction, we find the thing that will make one of those hedges pay off, and then we commit to that direction to try to get the best board we can make done as well as we can, and then just closing out the run with 10 wins. And hopefully you found that a useful guide with some core principles that might make pivoting as a concept easier to understand, or help you kind of know what to prioritize when you are trying to pivot yourself. Um, I've also left a link to my Discord in the description below, where there are currently channels where you can ask any questions that you have about this guide or any other guide that I've posted. You'll also be able to provide suggestions for future guides that you'd like me to make. My current big project is that I'm working on a large, comprehensive Vanessa overview, very much in the style of the Mac overview that's currently on the channel. So that's something that you can keep your eyes peeled for. Make sure to subscribe to the channel if you want to be notified when that video drops. And in the meantime, I hope you've enjoyed wherever you are. I hope you're having a wonderful morning, day, evening, or night. And I hope to see you all here next time.